I'm going to wander around a little bit. I don't like podiums. And I think, thank you, Chris, for, I guess I was going to wake up the audience after what I heard last night about the party. I actually got in at about 1 o'clock in the morning. So, and you can hear the police playing in the background. The premise of the talk today is not going to bore you with legal citations or let you know about all of the different compliance obligations, but is to throw out some ideas about search and surveillance and the blurring of the distinctions between what we have previously known as privacy and search and monitoring of consumer behavior. So why don't we start?
Once upon a time, consumers had to go to great lengths to acquire the things that made their lives better. As time went by, retailers and marketers came up with inventive ways of getting their customers what they wanted. Along the way, various technological advances guided the evolution of commerce. Newspapers, magazines, radio, and television all helped eager consumers look for what they wanted to purchase and where they wanted to purchase it. Catalogs, the telephone, and the postal service combined to let the public shop in the comfort and tranquility of their own homes. But the ultimate shopping experience was yet to come. It wasn't until the year 1994 that businesses found the most ideal way to serve their valued customers. They took the combination of the pioneering technologies of the personal computer and the internet to launch the true future of retail marketing.
Probably the first time you've heard a lawyer not speak.
Pull up a chair, grab your mouse, and avoid the crowds by shopping at home online.
About 4 million American families will buy some of their gifts online for the first time this holiday season. I intend to join them.
So what we'd like to do today, or what I'd like to do today in introducing the topic and kind of kicking off the day's activities, is to talk to you a little bit about how the convergence of cloud computing and social networking and mobile and wireless technology are creating or blurring, if you will, the distinctions between what we typically talk about as search versus privacy. And by the way, over on the side, you'll see, I don't know if this works, but it's like the don't stare at the elephant in the room. So I've got little quotes and things. Just don't look at them when you're reading the slides, and most of the slides don't need to be read anyway. Let's first talk about cloud computing. Most of you probably know cloud computing is essentially utility computing. You will be able to deliver services, applications, content on demand, anywhere, anytime. Basically, pay-as-you-go, subscription models. You won't need high-powered processing devices in your hand. So, to my mind, privacy and data security in the cloud environment are probably the most talked about issues, but the least worrisome to me. We figured out privacy and security on the mobile devices and on the web. We'll figure it out. To me, the biggest issue for you folks in the room is probably interoperability, but what the advent of cloud computing does is it actually puts the power of delivery of local, mass customized advertising and branding, okay, in a different sphere. And the question then becomes, what jurisdiction, where are you, what laws apply? What are the trends to look for? Cloud providers will probably begin to close the gap between public and private clouds. They will invest in security and compliance management, and there will need to be a greater collaboration between cloud providers and those builders and software vendors who are here in the room. In the world of social media, I think the quote from Tim Berners-Lee, who actually invented or created the World Wide Web, is illustrative. It was designed as a social tool and not a technical toy. And so what is the distinction between social media and traditional advertising? Well, from my point of view, it's all about the conversation. And so in case you can't see the t-shirt, it says advertiser.
Long time no see, looking good.
Yeah, let's just keep this simple. I want a divorce.
What now?
I think you heard me just fine.
Come on, this is me. What's wrong?
We don't talk anymore.
I just put down $1 million on a TV commercial just to talk to you.
Exactly. You do all the talking.
Everybody here?
Talk on our website, can't you?
Sure. If I want to say, order this product.
See?
It's not exactly a dialogue.
What about the print campaign, You can't tell me you missed a billboard in Times Square. That was like a 200-foot tall declaration of love.
You're saying you love me, but you're not behaving like you love me. It's not genuine.
I don't know. The agency said I was genuinely being funny. Genuinely being charming. They said you would love everything I did.
Could you keep your voice down? You're not doing a radio commercial. Look, whether you're funny or not, it's just, I've changed, and you haven't. I mean, we don't even hang out in the same places anymore. You're not even listening, are you?
Coupons. You want coupons, don't you? Look, come by the store. I got 2 words for you. Loyalty, reduction. Am I right? That was it, wasn't it? Let's just hug.
If you knew me, you'd know I don't care about that.
Know you? Sweetheart, I know everything about you. You're 28 to 34. Your online interests include music, movies, and laser hair removal. You have a modest but dependable disposable income. Am I the only one not getting the problem here?
I'm out of here.
Oh, come on. Don't be like that. Look, I'll tell you what. Come back here tomorrow. I'll give you the chance to win a Bahamas vacation. There's a small chance, minuscule, but technically still a chance. Why don't it be like the old days?
Okay, so it's all about the conversation in social media. You saw cloud computing, social media, and by the way, those of you that aren't on Cloud or Twiddleizer or haven't used the blog grader, most studies show that consumers respect peers and blogs more than often they do advertisers, and so there's actually social climbing sites which measure your influence. You know, I'm on Cloud. Unfortunately, I only have a 25 rating, so I'm obviously not influential enough. And let's look at mobile. You'll hear more about mobile later in much more detail, but the key in mobile devices is a couple of things to remember. One is mobile devices are cannibalizing all of the other devices that you have. So mobile devices are cannibalizing credit cards, cameras. How many people wander around with a camera anymore? Most people have mobile phones that have anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 megapixel resolutions on their mobile devices. In the world of purchasing and credit cards, most mobile devices will automatically enable e-payments. Those of you that go to Starbucks have the barcode scanned on your devices. You can buy theater tickets, and quite frankly, with GPS enabling, you can be standing online on the for the movies, having bought your tickets on Fandango, and lo and behold, somebody knows that you're standing there, and so you get pushed a coupon for a 10% discount on popcorn or soda or whatever it is that you want. So at some point, no, I don't want to change the color scheme. At some point, people will realize that with cloud computing decoupling the devices, and with mobile computing and social media, what you have is the convergence of technologies which essentially are removing, there were more searches, I think, done on mobile devices in 2010 than were done on traditional desktops or laptops. It took about 100 years for the automobile to make it to about 1 billion cars on the planet. In 2011, there were 950 million mobile devices that were sold. I think estimates are that by the end of 2012 this year, there'll be 5.9 billion active wireless contracts. So the reality is that you will be able to go to work carrying your toolbox in your pocket, and you will be able to work anywhere, anytime, access any application, access any data, simply through all of these mobile devices. Now, from a privacy and a surveillance point of view, what that does is it exacerbates the legal issues, because now, no, I still don't want to change the color scheme. Now, I know where you are. I'll give you a little bit of an anecdote, a personal anecdote. About 3 years ago, I was speaking at a conference in Valencia, Spain, and I didn't have a global phone, so I stopped in Heathrow on my way of connection, and I rented a phone. And I went to the Vodafone booth, and I filled out the contract, and I did what every lawyer does when you get all these forms. You just sign them. And so I signed the forms, and then I got my connecting flight, and I went to Valencia. And as you can imagine, who has my phone number at that point? My wife, my kids, my secretary. That's pretty much it. And I figured anybody else can get in touch with me through one of those people. Give the speech, have the conference. It was a great event. Walking back to the hotel, those of you that have ever been to Spain, the equivalent of either Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom's, I'm not sure which, is a department store called El Corte Inglés. And the English Court, it's an upscale department store in Spain. And I and 2 or 3 of my colleagues are walking back from the hotel, and we're passing from the conference center. I still don't want to change the color scheme. And all of a sudden, the phone starts to vibrate. And I'm thinking, okay, who could be calling me? It's probably about 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, so New York, it's, I don't know, midday. So I look, and there in my own readable Spanish, it says, come into El Corte Inglés and get €10 gift card for every 100 euros that you spend. Now, I got that. I'm walking by the department store, and I did what all of you would do. I'm looking around, trying to figure out how they know. And I walk into the department store, and I show them this little barcode scan and all this little information. And actually, the sales lady, you all know this, the first counter in the department store, any department store, is always the women's cosmetics. And so I say, excuse me, but is this real? And she didn't know anything about it. So she calls the manager, and they go over to the scanner, and they scan it, and indeed it was real. But they didn't know how I got it. And so I went back to my hotel room, and I picked up the phone, and naturally what they told me was, because I'm not an EU citizen, all the forms I signed consented to a beta test of push marketing, that they were going to use GPS tracking. And when I got near an establishment that participated in the test, they would send me coupons and offers through my phone. If I were an EU citizen, without my opt-in consent, that probably would have been illegal to do. Anyway, so content is king. Those of you that didn't know where that term comes from, it actually came from Bill Gates, 1996. Context, well, Carl Sagan once said, it's interesting that we've cataloged the context of dolphins being able to learn up to 50 words, but human beings apparently don't speak Dolphinese. And control. And probably the most famous quote about privacy is the right to be left alone, the most comprehensive of rights, from Louis Brandeis. Now, in my world, content equals intellectual property, and you probably know there are battles going on about copyright and trademark and patents, obviously. Those of you that follow the world of copyrights know that we are suing 15-year-old kids for still moving files of music one way or the other. In the world of context, it's search and surveillance, monitoring what people do, their behavior. And in the world of control, we're talking about privacy. But today, it's my belief that that's where the money is. Because the premise of the remainder of what I'm going to say today is that we have gone from a society and from a world in which privacy no longer means what we think it means. It used to mean private information that nobody knows or that you don't want to disclose to the public or to a variety of others. Okay? What it has come to mean is non-private, publicly available information that's simply being monitored. When you go to the supermarket and check out, when you do things on a browser, you know that other people are watching what you're doing. When you swipe your loyalty reward card, and yet the regulators continue to talk about that as if we are invading your privacy. So here's the analogy. If you go to the supermarket and you buy some Swiss cheese and a container of milk, that is not an inherently private act. Nor do you expect it to be. You go to the supermarket, you generally swipe your loyalty card. You may pay by a credit card. You know that there are surveillance cameras watching you, and it probably wouldn't bother anybody in this room, although this room is probably not a representative audience, probably wouldn't bother anybody in this room to know that when you checked out, you got a little coupon along with your receipt that said, come in next time within the next 10 days, 5 days, 30 days, and get 10% off your next purchase of Kraft cheese or some other brand of cheese. Okay? But what creeps some consumers out is imagine getting an email a week later from some company in Denmark saying, we know you were shopping at Ralph's or ShopRite or some other supermarket, you know, A&P, Stop and Shop, Stop and P, whatever you like. And suddenly you get an email from somebody in Denmark saying, we understand that you bought some Swiss cheese. Well, why don't you try ours, and here you can print out or use this barcode. That creeps consumers out, even though, if you think about it, it's not an inherently private act. You're in public view, you've swiped your card with a credit, you've made your purchase with a credit card, you probably used a loyalty reward card, and yet, okay, people are, or regulators think that people are upset by that. I'm actually not. I don't want ads for dog food, but I would like to see ski resorts and other things that I like to do. The notion of privacy, and I've blanked out the word right because it's not a right, okay, comes from a Harvard Law Review article written by none other than Louis Brandeis and Samuel Warren. Louis Brandeis went on to become a Supreme Court justice. And it describes what they perceive as a right which is mentioned nowhere in the Constitution of the United States, nor, contrary to what many people believe, is the notion that the law only protects those situations in which people have a reasonable expectation of privacy. Those words never appear in any case decision anywhere, at least not at this point. Okay? The reason that we've come to believe that is that there is a sense that information about us, we have a choice as to who, when, and to what extent we wish to disclose it. And it is that right that is lumped under the notion of the right to privacy. Okay? In 1993, there was a New Yorker cartoon that said, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. We have to make the sound louder.
Money, it's run by little ones and zeros, little bits of data. It's all just electrons. I don't care. I don't expect other people to understand this, but I do expect you to understand this. We started this journey together.
It wasn't a journey, Cos. It was a prank.
There's a war out there, old friend. A world war. And it's not about who's got the most bullets. It's about who controls the information. What we see and hear, how we work, what we think. It's all about the information.
With, I guess, apologies to the screenshot. Those of you that have never seen the movie Sneakers with Ben Kingsley and Robert Redford, I recommend it to you. It's a 1992 movie. It's now 2012. That scene is 20 years old, and it is still all about who controls the information, who can see it, what we hear, what we talk, what we learn, what we like, what we don't like. So today, I've updated that cartoon, okay, so that we know a whole lot about you, not just that you're a dog, but what kind of dog you are, what dog food that you like, and the fact that you sneak into the bedroom when the master is away and lie on the bed watching cable TV. Okay, so I don't expect you to read this, because those of you that sat in the back came early, and those of you that got late ended up being stuck in the front row. But we consistently and persistently use, and regulators, judges, lawyers consistently use words of privacy that refer to actually online monitoring of non-private information, of non-private activity. And we do so, and that blurring is causing an amazing amount of distinction and dichotomy between what consumers really want and what advertisers really want, and what agencies are doing, and the regulators. When telemarketing became in vogue back in the, I guess, 70s and 80s, and I got phone calls at dinner time trying to sell me insurance, or a real estate broker wanting to know if I wanted to sell my house, that pissed me off. It irritated me. I didn't want to be disturbed at night. And the hue and cry, the screaming and yelling that went on, prompted Congress to have a do not call registry. And eventually it was a federal registry, then it was a state registry, state by state, and you can register your phone number so that you can ostensibly not be disturbed by telemarketers who are interrupting your dinner, your television watching, or any other activity. Okay? How many people have heard of consumers complaining that they actually get relevant advertising because people are monitoring their behavior? How many people are complaining that when they want to go from New York to San Francisco, on the side of whatever search engine you use, Firefox, Bing, Google, Yahoo, any of them, okay? How many people are actually complaining that they get relevant advertising because they haven't, for the past 20 years, turned off the setting that says, I don't want cookies on my machine? I asked that to some of the FTC commissioners that we work with and that we're friendly with in dealing with cases. The answer is maybe 1 every 10 years. Nobody cares. When I talk to my kids about their being monitored, their behavior being looked at, their comment is, who cares? They don't have anything to hide, and they don't want irrelevant advertising. Yet, the regulators still talk as if outward, non-private behavior is subject to privacy protection. We live in a kind of a schizophrenic society. I, by the way, naturally, I made the thing rotate because technology, cloud computing, social networking, mobile are really what's driving some of these innovations and some of the blurring. But being a lawyer, I had to put law at the top of the pyramid. But we want surveillance, and we're willing to give up even some of our privacy and some of our security for the notion that we can prevent crime or we can prevent terrorism. I mean, if you go to London, CCTV cameras are all over the place. They're in department stores, they're in underground, the tube, okay? And yet, we worry about not the invasion of our privacy, but control and exploitation of the information about us, whether it's private or not. Okay? This give anybody comfort? There is an engineer who installed that red button in the White House. Hopefully there's no back door to that red button. You can read this at your leisure. I'm just going to summarize it quickly. Again, though, for those of you that are sitting in the back or who are over the age of 40, yes, it may be necessary for government to intervene and prevent some abuses, but the truth is that I have yet to see a piece of legislation that is concretized that makes any sense and can withstand the test of time. Even the copyright laws or the trademark laws are under attack these days. If you go into intellectual property. Those of you that have seen the death of SOPA, now we have CISPA. Okay? Why are some of the internet search providers in favor of it? Because it insulates them from liability. It's a legal issue. It means that the government can ask them for virtually any piece of information about anybody in this room, anytime they want, for any reasonable reasons, and the search provider has absolutely no liability. That's why they like it, because they don't like liability. Those of you that operate search engines, read the terms and conditions. Mobile devices will expand the domain of advertising, but they'll also eliminate the distinctions between desktop computing and home entertainment and a variety of forms of, as I said, they're cannibalizing the devices. And since advertising models and economics and legal frameworks are constantly changing, the role of advertisers, the role of internet service providers, the role of agencies You know, if somebody had told you 10 years ago who the largest seller of music would be, how many people in this room would have said Apple computer in those days? Okay? How many people know who's second? Take a guess, come on. Amazon, or it's usually a tie between, it's somewhere between, depending on the year or the month, it's either Amazon.com or Walmart. Largest sellers of music on the planet. So change is difficult. This is what the help desk looked like when the printing press was first invented.
Ja, så jeg har ikke fått gjort noen ting hele formiddagen. Okay, nei, jeg beklager at det tar tid, så skjønner vi holder på å legge om til et helt nytt system, og da skal alle ha hjelp på en gang, vet du. Ja. Så du kommer ikke inn i den, eller? Nei, den bare ligger der. Okay, har du forsøkt å åpne den? Ja, åpne den? Altså, hvis det hadde vært så enkelt, så hadde jeg jo ikke tilkalt helpdesk, hadde jeg vel? Nei. Vil du ha en kopp varmt vann? Nei, det skal være fort gjort, det skal vi se. Du bare gjør der. Sånn. Ja. Da er du i gang. Ja, altså så langt kom jeg også. Ok. Men så stoppet det opp, og så var jeg redd for at noe av teksten skulle forsvinne, så jeg turte ikke å gå videre. Ja, ok. Nei, men du skjønner, inni her så ligger det kanskje flere hundre sider med lagret tekst. Så for å komme videre, så tar du tak i et ark på den måten her, og så liksom blar du over på neste side sånn. Da fortsetter teksten der. Jeg blar, altså? Du blar, ja. Men når jeg skal tilbake da? Ja, da bare blar du tilbake igjen, tar tak der, og så, der, så er du tilbake til den teksten du hadde, sa. Ikke noe... Ok, så den slutter der, og så fortsetter den der, ja. Ok, men når jeg skal avslutte for dagen, hva gjør jeg da? Da bare slår du sammen permene, på den måten der. Sånn. Da er den lukket her, ligger alt lagret inni der. Altså, jeg risikerer ikke å miste noe av teksten her nå, altså? Nei, alt ligger lagret inni her nå, da må du i tilfelle sette fyr på hele greia, det er kanskje litt sannsynlig. Ja, ok. Nei, for det er noe med det at når du har holdt på med skriftruller, så tar det litt grann tid å konvertere til å bla i en bøk. Ja, det er alvor på TV-biten. Det er greit? Ja, men du, før du går, jeg bare gå gjennom en gang til. Altså, jeg åpner... Sånn, og så, hva har du kalt det? Blar. Jeg blar. Ja, blar videre. Blar frem og tilbake. Og når, ligger det helt. Ja. Og når jeg er ferdig, så bare lukker jeg den. Flott. Kjempefint. Ja, men du, nei, ikke sant? Nå er den sånn igjen, nå får jeg ikke åpnet den. Nå får jeg ikke åpnet den. Det er fra feil side. Du må åpne fra andre siden. Så det er ikke likegyldig det, altså? Åpne fra den siden der. Sånn. Der. Der er den åpne. Ja vel. Har du lest manualen, eller? Manualen? Jeg skal følge med som manualen som brukerveiledning. Det er sikkert den der. Der, vet du. Åja, den ja. Står alt sammen. Ja, men ikke sant, der har du samme problemet. Får den ikke opp. Ok, det skulle vi kanskje tenke på.
Okay, so that's what the help desk looked like back in 1455. So everything is changing, and change is difficult. Consumers, those of you that have never read, there's a book, I forgot the author's name, but it's called An Army of Davids, and it refers to David and Goliath. And it's written by a marketing gentleman, executive, who describes industry by industry how the power of consumers and the internet and social media are transforming industries. Not only music, but, for example, publishing. 10, 15 years ago, if the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, the Chicago Tribune, any of the major publications made a mistake, what would you see? 6 weeks later, you'd see a little retraction somewhere on page 32 that said, we made an error, the photograph of Sergeant so-and-so was really a picture of Lieutenant X, and there would be some small type correction printed. Today, if the New York Times or the LA Times or any of these major publications makes a mistake, the blogosphere lights up in seconds with corrections. That's not true. I've got a picture on my cell phone of so-and-so sitting there, or that's my brother, or no, I know that didn't happen. And so the credibility of the publishing industry, for example, as just one industry, is being strained. Why? Because the average consumer, the average citizen, has the power now to correct the story. Similarly, I'm not naive enough to think that Twitter or Facebook or any of these social networks created the overthrow of governments in Tunisia or Libya or Syria or any of the places where revolts are being fomented. But the reality is that they do encourage the dialogue and support among people who now can talk to each other. And that in and of itself is a huge global social phenomenon. So yes, even at the bottom there, notice this one I put down as last, regulation, law, and lawyers need to change.
Guaranteed hot in 30 minutes or it's free. This is Mary. May I take your order?
Hi, Mary. Yes, I'd like to order.
Is this Mr. Kelly?
Yes?
Thank you for calling again, sir. I show your national identification number as 610-204-999-45-54610. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I see you live at 736 Montrose Court, but you're calling from your cell phone. Are you at home?
I'm just leaving work, but I'm...
Oh, we can deliver to Bob's Auto Supply. That's at 175 Lincoln Avenue, yes?
No, I'm on my way home. How do you know all this stuff?
We just got wired into the system, sir.
Oh, well, I'd like to order a couple of your double meat special pizzas.
Sure thing. There'll be a new $20 charge for those, sir.
What do you mean?
Sir, the system shows me that your medical records indicate that you have high blood pressure and extremely high cholesterol. Luckily, we have a new agreement with your national health care provider that allows us to sell you double meat pies as long as you agree to waive all future claims of liability.
What?
Do you agree, sir? You can sign the form when we deliver, but there is a charge for processing. The total is $67 even.
$67?
Well, that includes the delivery surcharge of $15 to cover the added risk to our driver of traveling through an orange zone.
I live in an orange zone?
Now you do. Looks like there was another robbery on Montrose yesterday. You could save $48 if you ordered our special Sprout Submarine Combo and picked it up yourself. Comes with tofu sticks. Those are very tasty, sir. Good value, too.
But I want double meat.
Well, I'm sure you can afford the $67 then. You just bought those tickets to Hawaii. They weren't cheap, eh? Oh, but I see you checked out the budget beach bum at the library last week. Up to you, sir.
All right, all right. I'll get the Sprout subs.
Good choice, sir. Gotta watch that waist if you're hitting the beach, eh? 42 inches. Wow. Man, I'd say tofu and sprouts is like required.
That's how much?
Just between you and me, there's a $3 off coupon in this month's Total Men's Fitness magazine. Your wife Betty subscribes to that, right? Anyhow, clip that and it's $19.99 even. Whoa, looks like you maxed out on all your credit cards. Bring cash, okay?
Want to stop this from happening?
Now, for those of you advertisers, agencies, marketers, brand managers in the room, this was an actual ad run about 5 or 6 years ago by the American Civil Liberties Union. And again, how many people have credit cards? How many people actually believe the credit card number is yours? Anybody in the room have a passport? Anybody think the passport number is yours? And yet we all believe that that's private information. Yet it's information known by governments, by banks, by financial institutions. I always laugh. I have a good friend that I had a conversation with over dinner a couple of weeks ago because he was telling me about his experience. He's an avid privacy nut. He goes to the doctor when they ask him to fill out the health forms. He asks them for a separate number because he doesn't want to give his Social Security number. Okay? He was describing a situation in which he walked into a department store, I won't name the department store, with his wife, and again, cosmetic counters first, and there was a woman there with a clipboard. And she said, you know, if you sign up for a credit card today, what happens? Yeah, you get some percentage off all the purchases you make within the next 24 or 48 hours. Great. So he and his wife dutifully sit there, and they fill out the form, and they give them every information that you can imagine, Social Security number, names and birthdays of their firstborn children, you know, their child, you know, their dog's name, everything that you ever wanted to know on this clipboard. And I looked at him over dinner and I said, okay, who was this lady? Do you know her? I mean, she actually walked out and sent all that information to somebody in Nigeria who will send you an email telling you that if you want $30 billion, you could just send them a check for $50,000 and they'll unlock the bank account. We do this all the time. You go into a bank, you apply for a mortgage or you apply for an auto loan, and you give strangers information about yourself that relates to your most intimate finances, your most intimate details. We aren't that really taken with privacy, but we are concerned about somebody using and making money off of information about us. So it's really about controlling the information that we're worried about. So with that, questions? Everybody's numb.
Zillion different places and different servers in different countries, you would be really concerned about it. But I think people are just ignorant of that fact right now. So wouldn't consolidation in some, I don't want to say national way because that's scary to people, but in some way that's organized and maybe a little more secure be better for everyone than just this wild, you know, mishmash of our data in different servers, different countries?
Who do you trust more, your bank or the government?
My bank.
Okay, the defense rests. I mean, seriously. I mean, you know, one of the things that people are, I mean, it's a good question, but there are two issues involved. One is, from a legal point of view, do you really want to clutter up your advertising real estate with disclosures? And I mean, if you actually pay attention to some of, anybody ever lease a car? I mean, when you see the ads for these car leases, and you have this little tiny print at the bottom, or you have somebody talking at the speed of light telling you about MSRP, no down payment required, tax and title, and all this other stuff crammed into a 30-second spot. Okay? Does anybody really think that that disclosure is helpful to a consumer? So, you know, you have the dilemma of, and this is actually a cultural distinction. In the United States, we mistrust government. Those of you that do business internationally, we mistrust government. We believe that if you give government something to do, they will screw it up or they will do it wrong. That's why everybody is nervous about CISPA and SOPA and all the other legislations that have multiple initials. We love DMCA. Lawyers love little initials. That being said, hey, we are nervous about having so much information consolidated in the hands of one database, because imagine the hacking joy of being able to get at that information in one place. So even today, it's easier than it was when information was stored in multiple file cabinets on paper, but it's still not that easy because you have different buckets of information. If you put it all in a central database, those of you that have read George Orwell's 1984, can start to get nervous all over again. Just to give you some idea, by the way, that Legal Bytes is my blog. It's written pretty much the way I talk, and I blog about things that are interesting to me. There are also trivia contests, so if you win, you get prizes. And yes, that is my QR code. The law firm, as the chair of the group, we have a number of what we call thought leadership pieces. There's a social networking series of white papers. They tend to be between 4 and 5 pages long, and they cover issues that are related to social media, which you can kind of dissect at your leisure. We call it network interference. There's another one, Transcending the Cloud, which is about the legal implications of cloud computing. And we are right now working on one called Mobile Mayhem. There's other Ad Law by Request and Reacts are 2 other blogs that the firm has. And if anybody else has any other questions, I'm happy to take them. I will be here for the rest of the day and hopefully joining you for dinner. So feel free to grab me, stop me, come and talk to me. Thank you.